Welcome back to GOTWIREA. I'm Adam, and today I have TP-Link Omada wireless bridge that they were gracious enough to send me for review. It's a 5 gigahertz bridge that maxes out at about gigabit speeds. So I have the kit here and two PoE injectors, one for each antenna, and they're indoor-outdoor antennas. But we'll get this wireless bridge unboxed here and see what all comes in the kit. So on the box, it says this is effortless, just plug and play, and they automatically connect to each other. And then on the side here, you have signal bars that show you how good a signal you have. So you get the two antennas, and then they give you some zip ties to zip tie them to a pole if you're gonna put them on a pole. And then on the bottom here, you have 3 Ethernet ports. One's the PoE in, which is LAN, and then you have 2 extra Ethernet ports if you want to hardwire something else outside where these are at. You also have a 12 volt DC plug if you want to power them with 12 volt DC, like a regular power adapter. And then we'll get one of these PoE injectors unboxed. This is what I'm powering mine with, is these PoE injectors. So on the box, you get the PoE injector, a little mounting bracket, that power cord for it, and then you get some screws and drywall anchors to mount this to drywall. And this is a 24 volt passive PoE injector. So you get your LAN and then PoE out, and these are just gigabit PoE injectors. So I'm gonna go outside, mount one of these on my house, and then one of these on my truck, and drive to the end of the road in my neighborhood and do some speed tests and see what we get. So I'm up here on my roof. I got an old DirecTV mount. I'm gonna take this mount that TP-Link sent me, which is right here, and I'm gonna secure it to this DirecTV mount, the access point up here, and then I'm gonna drive up the road to the end of the driveway or end of the road there in my cul-de-sac and run a speed test point to point. I'm gonna be parked down there in my vehicle and then run a speed test to the one here on my house. And the one on the house, you just make sure that you switch that little switch in there to main AP and then plug it into the very left Ethernet port, which is LAN PoE there. So this is my setup here. I have an Ethernet cable plugged into my port here, which leads to my PoE switch and my rack. And this Ethernet cable runs out kind of jankily up to my antenna that I got mounted on my roof. And then if you didn't have a PoE switch, you'd use the PoE injector from TP-Link. You plug the jack into the LAN side, or if it's next to your router, you know, from your router into the LAN. And then PoE, you'd plug this cable running into your antenna into the PoE port. But since I have a PoE switch, I'm not going to use this. I just plugged it up here to show you guys. And then this is how I have the AP mounted. I have the cable coming up into the bottom, and then I repurposed my DirecTV mount with the TP-Link mount and got it zip tied to the back of the TP-Link mount, and then I have it pointed out to the end of the road. So on the truck side, you just make sure you switch the switch to client AP and then plug into that same very left port, PoE in, and then I got the cable ran up here and I got it ran out my door. I know it's 90'd like crazy there, but it should still work. And then I'm gonna mount the antenna up above my truck. I'm gonna put a tripod here and then mount the antenna up above my truck. All right, so now I'm down here at the end of my road and I can see my house and I can see the AP, and I already went outside and aligned the other AP on my truck because it moved when I drove down here. And I'll show you how I have everything configured temporarily in my truck. If you had 2 structures, this is most likely what you'd use it for, you know, your house and then your garage. In my case, my truck is my garage, so I'm just testing it to see how fast we can get. And we're probably about, I don't know, 1,000 foot away with a bunch of stuff in the way. That's my house down there to the left of that red car, and to the right of those bricks, you can see the AP, that white tiny little dot. And then on my truck, I have it on a tripod pointed at my house, and then I get the wire ran through my door over there. And then powering it, I have a power bank with the TP-Link PoE injector. One side goes to the AP outside, and then the other goes to my laptop here. All right, so I'm gonna run a open speed test on my server running in my house over this point-to-point link. And open speed test, you can just run it on anything. I had it running on my Windows laptop. Right now it's running on my Unraid box in a Docker container. So we'll go ahead and get that pulled up here. And both antennas have full bars. The one on the house has full bars, and then the one here on my truck is showing full bars after I moved them and aimed them. And right now we're getting about 390 megabits per second down, and the ping is really good, 7 milliseconds. And then upload, we're getting about 280, 300 megabits per second. Now there is some stuff in the way, like those brick pillars I showed you earlier, and then the red car, but it should have fairly good line of sight. But I am in a little bit of a dip. I'm sure if I raised them up higher, I'd get faster speeds, especially the one here on my truck. But that's the highest I can get this AP with that tripod that I got. So with open speed test, it looks like we got 380 down and 285 up. All right, so now we're gonna run an iPerf test on my server running in my rack at my house. It's got a 10 gig Ethernet connection, so that shouldn't be the bottleneck. The AP at my house is plugged into a gigabit PoE switch. And then here, the PoE injector is a gigabit PoE injector, and along with my Ethernet port on my laptop is also a gigabit Ethernet port. So we'll go ahead and run iPerf 3 here. And that got us about 154 megabits per second. So now we'll go ahead and run it again, but with 4 streams. So you do a dash capital P 4, and it looks like we ended up with 292 megabits per second with iPerf 3 running 4 streams at once. That's a little bit slower than what we got with open speed test. So these Omada TP-Link wireless bridge did its work right out of the box. I plugged them up, set one to main AP and one to client mode, and that is connected. You can see the signal strength on the side, and I topped out at about 380 megabits per second. But if I got the line of sight cleaner and I got them mounted higher up, especially on where my truck was, I think I'd get really close to full gigabit speed with these. Thanks to TP-Link for sponsoring this video. They did give me an affiliate link to their website, so if you use that link and buy something on their website, I get a small kickback. It doesn't cost you guys any more, but that link's down in the description if you want to buy some TP-Link gear or if you want to buy a set of wireless bridges for yourself. As always, these opinions are my own, even though TP-Link sent me the gear. I really like these. I just love the plug and play factor, not having to configure a bunch of settings on a web page. It's kind of a pain in the butt sometimes, especially if you're doing it for a client, you just want it to work. But thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button, and I'll see you guys on the next one.